Welcome back to Handelsdagarna 2020. I'm here with Patrik Wahle from Volati. He's chairman of the board, and he has a master's in business administration from Lund University.
More or less.
More or less. Almost.
Almost
a master's in business administration. And then he went on to work for EY and Kemira.
Yes, that's right.
Before co-founding, and now, and you were CEO for a while for Volati too, right?
Yeah, for quite many years. I was
quite many
CEO,
years, yeah. So, we're very pleased to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Nice. What are you saying no to be here today?
Sorry?
What are you saying no to in your current job to be here today? What would you do
Actually,
otherwise?
as the chairman, you have quite a lot of time, so that's quite okay. I'm trying not to work too much.
Yeah.
At least my CEO tells me to stay out of the office, so this is very good for him.
And since you've been CEO before, is that a hard thing to do, to kind of stay out of and not be involved in?
Honestly, it's very tricky. I love my work, I love to be there, but since making the decision to not being operative anymore, you have to step away a bit, and yeah, it's a hard thing to do actually.
So for people that are not familiar with Volati and what you do, could you tell us just shortly what is Volati and what do you guys?
Okay, we are listed on the Stockholm Stock Exchange. We have a turnover of around 7 billion. We have 4 different business areas, and we span from everything from car inspection to bookstores. So our most well-known company is Akademibokhandeln. So we do a bit of everything.
Yeah, and then I heard in an interview, I can't remember which one it was, probably the one on Phil or Kill, I think, that you say that when you look at a prospect, cash flow that's what you go to first.
Yeah, cash flow is very important. The first thing I look into considering a new investment is the figures. Cash flow being the number one, but also sort of the capital structure, the profitability and other things. And if I like what I see, then I start to think about, okay, so why is this company profitable? So why do the customers come here, and sort of understanding the competitive landscape. But I always start with the figures.
And what do you look at specifically? Do you have any, is it an overall picture, or do you have a favorite number that you go to and you?
Oh, it's quite holistic. So it's a mixture of different things. But cash flow is what I'm looking for. But then you have to try to understand the working capital structure, the capital requirements, the margins. Yeah, a bit of everything. So it's quite holistic.
And what about the leadership in the company? Do you, because I saw on your, I think, LinkedIn profile that you're chairman of, or at least you're on the board of a lot of different companies.
Yeah, I have been.
Have been, okay. Yeah. So is Volati working, do you play as a CEO in every company that you own, or are you on the board?
Sometimes the CEO stays on, but quite often we have changed the CEO because it has been generational shifts. So the people selling are selling because they would like to retire. And then we have to get a new leadership in, so that we have done quite a lot.
So I was thinking we could go back a little bit to so first you studied business administration in Lund.
Yeah, the dropout guy.
The dropout guy. Okay, but you finished almost. So tell me, when did you drop out?
I had very good grades, I have to be honest to say. So I'm not really a dropout. I'm missing a PM in statistics.
Okay.
So I don't have the degree actually.
And you never thought of maybe I should just...
I'm thinking, but I wake up every morning thinking, why didn't I do that?
Okay. And then you went on to work for Kemira and for EY.
Yeah.
What did you... So let's say I'm inspired by you and I want to, like by your age, I want to be in your position. Would you, because you spent quite a lot of time in, the company that you helped found. But was that of importance to get some experience?
It's luck plays a so big role in life. So when I was finished in Lund, or almost finished, I was planning to go to Spain, study some Spanish, have a semester off. But I did write my final thesis on Kemira, and they asked me to stay on. So I did. I asked for a very high salary, and I thought they would say no, but they said yes. So I stayed, and that was circumstances. And then I thought I would like to move abroad, So I asked the boss after like 3 months that this is not my thing, I need to go abroad. So after a year I went to Italy, to Milan. And then the managing director of the West Europe picked me to go to Barcelona. And after a while I thought, okay, if I should stay in Kemira, they will probably move me to Helsinki, and I don't want that. And by coincidence, I ended up at Ernst & Young as a strategy consultant. I didn't even know that they did that, but they had a friend of a friend working there. So I went there, had 3 very good years, and then Carl, a friend from university, called me and said, I have an idea. We should start a company together. And he invited me for lunch at Prinsen and sold the idea of Volati.
Okay.
So no long-term plan, just lucky breaks.
Okay. And then you start, this is around 2003, right?
2003 we started Volati, yeah.
Yeah. And what was the first steps like? Because I mean, to acquire companies, you need capital.
If I know what I know now, I would never ever have started, because it was much more tricky than what I could expect.
Yeah.
So just finding the first company to acquire. You should remember, Carl and I was like 33, 34. We have no experience really about doing this, and so everyone we met was very skeptic. You young guys should acquire companies. Do you have the money? Do you have the knowledge? Will you do it? So it was hard to just find something to acquire.
Yeah. And how did it go about? What happened? Your first company?
I was at Ernst & Young. I was senior manager, so I was selling projects, and I thought, okay, I will acquire companies. Everyone will love me, because I've been knocking doors trying to sell, and now I will be the buyer. I will be highly loved. I will get fika of everyone, and they will just love me. But they didn't. So I wrote 100 emails trying to get meetings with corporate firms, to advisors, just trying to get meetings. And had quite a lot of meetings, and after like half a year I was thinking we will not succeed. But then I got a lucky break, and we met with PricewaterhouseCoopers, and they had tournament to sail, and we managed to convince the owners that we would be a very good new owner of tournament.
Okay. And then it went on from there, or was it still hurdles?
Sorry?
On the way? Were there still hurdles on the way, or was it just up from there, or how?
Okay, so we get the opportunity to buy a company. Then we had to learn how to do due diligence, how to finance, and then, okay, we have signed a share purchasing agreement and taken over the company. Then we have to start to think about, okay, how do you run a company? Should we be the CEO? Should we hire someone? Should we be sitting on the board? And what do a board do? So there was very many questions in the beginning, and it has been learning by doing.
Yeah. Do you have I've asked everyone who's been here about a favorite failure of theirs. Do you think you have one of yours that
we have done
on your way of learning? Do you have a favorite failure of yours that kind of set up a later success, or something that you...
No, we haven't had many failures, but we have... I don't think I have any favorite one. I just hate failures. I hate to lose. I love to win.
Yeah.
So we have lost sometimes, but I don't like it.
Is there any failure that you remember particularly well?
There's one that Carl, my co-founder, tried to remember me about quite a lot. So we acquired Tornum. That was a very successful acquisition. I think we have, in this 16 years, we have owned the companies like 4 or maybe 5 times as big. It's been a very big success. Yeah. The second company we looked into, and I was very much in love with, Kalle told me, no, we will not do it. And like 6, maybe 12 months later, it was in chapter 11. So that was a failure that we avoided. But if I had the final decision, I think we have gone ahead.
Okay. And did you learn anything from it, or
did I? Yeah, you always learn. What did I learn from that? But acquiring companies quite tricky actually, and it's better to say no to a good deal than to say yes to a bad deal. Yeah. So we get even more suspicious of the companies afterwards. So it's not always, if the seller tells that everything is good, that may not be true. So you have to dig a bit deeper, get your own knowledge of the firm and the customers and so on.
Yeah. And now that you have a vast experience of doing this now, and you're quite successful in doing it too. What do you think are like essential qualities for someone in your position, working at a place like Volati? What is
talking about acquiring companies and managing companies? That's two different things. But talking about acquiring companies, you have to be very curious. You have to love to learn about new industries, new companies. You have to read a lot, meet a lot of people, and build a sort of platform of knowledge. And so that's one thing. The other thing is that you have to be brave. If you do like everyone else, you get the same result as everyone else, and you would like to overachieve. So then you have to do something different.
Yeah.
So you have to trust yourself and go your own road, and trust yourself. And then you better be right, because otherwise you look very silly.
Of course. Also, for someone who has, and I saw looking through your website, I think you have finished, is it 2 Lidingöloppet, 3 Vasaloppet, 3 marathons?
Is it just 2?
That's what it says on the website.
I think it's 3. Okay, I will double check that.
Yeah. That seems to be like a red thread throughout the leadership in your company.
I think everything started with Kalle being that sort of athlete, and he has forced everyone else to do it.
Yeah, okay.
But it also says something about delayed gratification, like this kind of events, you have to train very long for them, and then you sort of do it for 8 hours, and then you're happy. I think that says something about the character of the people. So
similar to what you're doing in your work.
Yeah, a little bit like that.
Yeah. So I'm interested in the idea of Volati Academy.
Yeah.
And you mentioned in an interview that I listened to that you had, I think it was GE as a role model for that.
Yeah. Could you say that today? I mean, when I was at high school or university, GE was the sort of the pinnacle of business. And today they're sort of a failure. But yes, GE was very inspiring at how they are running their internal training. Yeah,
so I'm curious, what's the vision for this academy? What do you want to accomplish?
For me, everything is about people. Yeah. So if you have the right people, you have already done your job. Okay, so you get the right people and you train them, they will get even better. So Volati Academy is all about getting good people to be even better. Better at their jobs, doing better decisions, have a better understanding of how we are thinking in Volati. So it's training.
And how do you recruit someone? Let's say I want to be in Volati Academy.
Yeah.
What would you like? Is there a checklist or?
There is no checklist. I'm not very much into long planning, and I'm not very much into checklists. So it's just it's a bit tricky. Okay.
So individual cases. Okay. I was thinking for SSC students, and this is a question that I try to ask everyone. You say you dropped out. I'm not sure if that's something you want to recommend to SSC students, but just during you have 3 or 5 or some people have 7 or even more years here. If you did it again, would you do it differently? What would you recommend someone focus on during the studies here? Just like the social, or the completely dive down into the subjects, or
I think actually both.
Yeah.
Looking into Volati, for instance, Kalle and I met at the university. Morten, our CEO, we met at the university. 2 of our business area managers, we met at the university. So build your network. That's really a really good opportunity. There is lots of talented people here, in which you could have great use of in the future. So build your network. Yeah. And then study for life, not for the exam. So you need your grades to get your first job, but at your first job you need the knowledge. So really focus on learning and understanding. I think that's too many people focus too much on the exam and actually don't learn the things.
For the long run. So in, let's say, first job after SSC then, and spinning off of that, learning for life. Is there a quality in let's say, a boss, for example, or an environment that you would recommend someone look for?
I think you should start with yourself, actually, and think about, where will I thrive? Where will I be successful? So in what environment do I have the best opportunities to be successful? And I will say that you could divide people into 2. two groups. So one will be looking for a good boss, someone to learn from. And other people will look for an environment where they get a great responsibility, but have to learn by themselves.
Yeah.
So start to think about in which of these two groups do you fit in. For me, it was so I love to make my own decisions. So I was looking for a place where I could make lots of decisions, have lots of freedom, great sort of environment for me. But for other people, that could be a setup for failure, because they need a role model and someone to learn it from. So that's, I think, is a good starting point.
Okay, so listen to yourself and then
try to understand who you are and where you will be successful. Yeah. And one thing I find a bit strange is that so many people from here or from the other prestigious university all end up in the same place. So why? The competition there will be great. Shouldn't you be looking for a place where the competition is a bit less, where you could grow into a great responsibility a little bit faster, and thereby learning and expanding as a person? I think I would do that.
Yeah, I buy that. I mean, I know this kind of a...
Everyone couldn't get to be a banker or a consultant, because it's super competitive, or private equity today.
Yeah. I guess that is kind of the stream that everyone is flowing with. If you don't really, or if you're not forced, or if you don't want to think for yourself. I'm not saying that people who go down that way don't think for themselves. I mean, I have a lot of friends that are really truly inspired by that route. But I think that if you're passive, which a lot of people obviously are going to be, because you don't know exactly what you want, then I think...
Do you remember Janne Boklöv?
No.
Janne Boklöv,
educate me.
Ski jumper.
Okay.
Who invited a V-stil.
Okay.
Before that, everyone jumped with the skis like this, and he jumped like this. And everyone thought he was crazy. And he turned out to be the best ski jumper Sweden has ever had. I think we need more Janne Boklöv. We need more people who's not only following the streams, but living their own dream, creating their own future. So more Janne Boklöv to the people, I think.
Yeah, I like that. But and for someone who wants to do that, it can still be a hard thing to, you're there and you want to do it, but you don't know how.
The risk is much higher.
Yeah.
So if Janne Boklöv have not succeeded, no one would have remembered him.
And there's probably a lot of
lots of Janne Boklöv who didn't succeed.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have if you could choose one, do you have some kind of role model or someone who has impacted your life?
Besides Janne Boklöv?
Besides Janne Boklöv, yeah.
It's a bit boring, but Buffett and Munger.
I would have guessed.
And in Sweden, Gustav Douglas at Latour, he's done a tremendous work. He's what he has done in business, but also in society. I think he's a great guy. And he started quite late. He was at DN until he was 43, 44.
Yeah. If we go to Buffett a little bit, except for do not lose money, and rule number 2.
Yeah.
Rule number 1 is important. What would you say that you want to incorporate from his philosophy? What is it that inspires you?
He and Munger is very deep thinkers about lots of subjects. You could learn lots of things from them. But what I think the number 1 for me is that they are doing what they are really good at. They are not copying anyone. There's just one Berkshire Hathaway, and they have built that company from their own strengths. And I think that's the biggest lesson you could do. There's too many people out there trying to copy Buffett, and then you haven't understand. The thing is that he's playing on his strong foot all the time. And I think that's the basic thing you should learn.
Yeah, I like that. Kind of, instead of copying what they're actually doing, copy the mode of being original.
I think that's important.
Yeah. I think that's a great way to round up, Patrik. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.